in by way of email, so feel free to email your questions in. And what she says is that she can't get her daffodils to bloom. The leaves come out, but they never seem to make flower.
Well, a lot of times when daffodils have been in a garden for a long time, the clumps get very thick. And what you need to do is dig up your daffodils and separate them out throughout the garden. And this way it'll initiate the bloom. They just get too tight and they just can't bloom anymore because there's just so much in that small space vying for all those nutrients. And so the bulbs aren't able to really get as large as they possibly could. When do you do this? I do it as the daffodil foliage starts to turn yellow because then I know where they are. And I dig them up, and I do put them in a cool place for the summertime, and then I pull them out in the fall and plant them. Or if I'm really in a mood and I'm into designing, I'll put them right back in the garden right then and there. It depends on what's going on. But it really truly is best to put them in a cool, dry place for the summertime and then replant them in the fall.
Very good. Amy, you have a question.
Jeroen, I had a question about tulips and how this year they seem to just peter out really quickly. They bloomed and they just faded. And you and I talked about this being, there's a secret to how we should grow tulips here in Virginia. Can you tell us what it is so that we don't have that experience where they just don't last? You were talking about sun versus shade and...
Yes, okay, yeah. The Virginia weather, I experienced it this year for the first time. It can be very hot soon. In Holland we do not have 75, 80 degrees till June, and over here it was 90s already 3 weeks ago. So what you want to do is put them in partial shade or even full shade. Tulips will do well over there. So don't be afraid to that you have to plant them in full sun, because over here the light intensity is so high because we are south.
But they'll do well in the shade,
yes.
Which I had no idea of. And mine certainly will benefit from being transplanted because this year they look
You do have to be careful when it is a full shade spot that there is good drainage, because sometimes the soil can be more soggy or wet on spots where the sun is not hitting too much.
Great.
Very interesting. I have a question, and I don't know who should take this, Amy or Peggy, but it's from Charlie in Bon Air, and Charlie has a question about English walnuts. And he wants to know if English walnuts will do well here.
Well,
Peggy.
I happen to have grown an English walnut. Maymont had an English walnut, and it died just a few years ago, and it was over 100 years when it died. And I just recently, just 2 months ago, replanted another English walnut, and they do just fine here in Richmond, Virginia. Yes, they do.
Any special needs, any special care?
Usual walnut requirements of high and dry and lots of sunshine, and they did just fabulously.
But you let one die at just 100 years old?
It was just 100 years old.
It's really a shame because not many people plant them because they're not patient enough to wait for...
No, it's a plant you've got to be patient with. Yes.
Okay. But you can enjoy them when you're enjoying Jeroen's 5,000 tulips in 50
years.
Jeroen, Katie in Richmond said that she's really interested in using your tulips for fundraising and wanted to know how to contact you. And we are going to put your contact information on our webpage.
Yes, you can go to our website, www.ecotulip.com, or email me.
And you have guests to the farm now. The tulips are gone, so there's not anything to see. But she could find you at the city market?
Yes, we will be in September again in Charlottesville in the city market.
Wonderful.
Jeroen, I have a question for you as well, and it is from Elizabeth in Henrico, and she's asking, what kind of fertilizer do you use?
I actually did not use any fertilizer.
Really?
Because I use the bulbs as an annual, I use the bulbs as a cut your own tulip garden, so my intent was that the people come and pick all the tulips I planted. Mm-hmm. When you want to dig the bulbs up or keep them in your soil for perennializing, mm-hmm. you do need to fertilize, and an organic fertilizer is bone meal.
Bone meal, okay.
Do I say that? No, I don't say that good. It is blood meal.
Blood meal.
Blood meal is a high nitrogen,
right.
A fast release high nitrogen fertilizer, which you want to use right when they come out of the soil, so in February.
Oh, okay.
That's the time to fertilize tulip bulbs.
Very good. I didn't realize that.
not later, because it can, like this for diseases, when you fertilize too soon before blooming, the diseases may occur.
Okay, so as soon as they start to break
Yes.
through the ground
And
in the early spring, that's when
yes,
you want
and
to
another important fact is don't fertilize into the planting hole, because some people want to do that because they think it's good for the roots, but most of the times the fertilizer is too, how do you say that, too hot, and that will burn the roots. So, and even what I was just talking about, bone meal, nobody is really using that anymore. The bone meal nowadays, they say the nutrients in there are not as good anymore as 20 years ago, and pretty much the only thing you do is making animals coming to your garden.
But if you are going to dig the bulbs and replant, then it offers a great opportunity to just incorporate compost into your planting.
Yes, compost mixing when you are planting, or use it as a cover, as a mulch, is of course very good for the soil and for the bulbs as well.
Wonderful.
Thinking about fertilizer, what about pH? What kind of soil pH do the tulips like?
Pretty neutral, like 6.8, 7.
Okay. So if their soil is too acidic,
Yes.
then they may even need to lime a little bit.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Amy?
One more question for Jeroen. Can you suggest some organic controls for things like squirrels and deer?
What I experienced and what I think, when you plant late, so plant after Halloween, maybe mid-November, when the soil gets colder, I think that the structure of the soil is then closer, and the animals will not smell that much the bulbs. So plant late and plant deep, 8 inches deep, so the animals will not smell the bulbs as much. And have a clean garden. When you're done planting, clean everything.
So you don't draw in the
Yes.
critters. That makes sense. And then you were going to partner with someone about maybe testing some garlic sprays?
Yes, that is something we definitely want to test out. The deer problem is huge here in Virginia.
Right.
We have been locked out. I did not use anything. We planted 40,000 bulbs. I see the deer every day, but they did not came to my garden. So I do think that I've been very lucky.
You have good karma coming to you.
Well, we just have a short period of time left, so I want to ask you, Peggy, a quick question, and that is about Scotch broom. This is from Tammy in Richmond, and she's wondering if it's an invasive plant or is it a plant that she shouldn't grow?
You know, I don't consider Scotch broom to be an invasive plant. I consider it a plant that actually is a short-term plant, because whenever I've grown it, I've ended up killing it within 5 or 6 years. I've enjoyed it wonderfully, and I've even watched along our highways when the highway department has put in a planting, and 5 years later the 30 plants are down to 2, which tells me it's not very invasive. And now, mind you, there might be lists out that prove me wrong in other parts of the state here, but I have found that it not to be invasive unless somebody.
One nice size, 4x4 Scotch broom at my house that has not reseeded or suckered or done anything.
Okay, so Tammy, sounds like you can give it a try.
And good luck.
Thank you all for being here tonight, for sharing your information, and thank you for watching and calling and sending in such good questions. I want to remind you that next month we'll be back on Virginia Homegrown, and we'll show you a feature on annuals and bedding plants, and we'll also show you something on agriculture in the classroom, sponsored by the Virginia Farm Bureau. That's Virginia Homegrown on your community idea stations.